a 3.6 liter GM engine that is leaking and it looks something like that, maybe you're getting a low oil message. Tone here, guys, and today we have a 2019 Chevy Blazer with a 3.6 liter engine. This one came in after a long trip, regular customer, and after a long trip down to Southern California, they got a message on their dash saying low oil. So they brought it in for the low oil check, and I looked the vehicle over. It did indeed have low oil. As a matter of fact, it had no oil on the dipstick at all whatsoever. So it was kind of good that they brought this in when they did, because we found several issues. We found oil leaks and coolant leaks and some suspension issues. And I'm going to be taking care of all of those while it's here. But today's video is going to be taking care of that oil leak. That oil leak is mainly coming from the engine timing cover. That is the front cover that's on the front of the engine that covers up all the timing components. The valve covers sit on top of it. Sits on top of the oil pan, and it seals the front of the engine. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to pull that off, reseal everything, and put it back together. Easy peasy. No, it's not easy peasy, but it's a big job. It's a lot of work. So before we get started, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. Let's just jump right in. So for the intake, I'm not going to show you every little thing. It's not that difficult. You're going to have an intake air hose, some bolts, and you're going to get all this off and out of the way. All right, now we got to get the valve covers off of both sides. So we're going to have to take this insulator off. We got to get to these coils, and we got to get these oil control solenoids out. We got to get the evap hoses disconnected. And these hoses right here, all you do is you push in like that with the white hose, and then you pull it out. See, as you push it in, it does like that. So that's how you get these disconnected, one on each side. All right, so here we got the harness disconnected. You can see the harness is disconnected most of the way around. I got a couple things here to disconnect. The back is all disconnected. So from here, we have to take all these solenoids out, okay? We get all those out. We got grounds we have to disconnect. The rest of this harness is going to pull away. But before we take the valve cover off, let's go ahead and take off the belt. We got to take off the drive belt, and we got to get the alternator out of the way and the AC compressor. So we're going to work on that now. All right, you're going to have a 13 milli for your B positive. You're going to have a connector. You're going to have two 13 millimeter bolts, but you're also going to have a bolt that goes through a pulley, and that goes in that top hole, and the bottom hole is the bolt that mounts up the alternator. Once you do that, go ahead and wiggle it out of the way. And now you can see we have a lot of room down there. So you can see that you see that I have this disconnected. That's because I'm replacing the radiator, and I left this part off because I have more access for the alternator and stuff like that. It gives you a better visual, but want to plug off your intake holes, okay? And then we're going to spray all the dirt off of this with an air nozzle. Get you a big air nozzle. Give it a big spray. You're going to get all this dirt off so we don't get it in the engine. First thing you want to do is use a mirror, go around the whole valve cover, and make sure you don't miss any bolts. Because even though this valve covers are aluminum, they can still crack if you pry on them. What you want to do is you want to take all the bolts out and hit them with a dead blow and try to break the seal. You're going to move around side to side, front to back, and try to loosen this thing up so you can get it off without breaking it. This little trim tool works perfect, and a dead blow. You're definitely going to want both. All right, next up, we got to take off this this pipe right here. There's two 13s going into the block that way. And then we have one bolt right here. We got to remove that. So since I'm doing the radiator, I have the radiator hose disconnected at the radiator, but the rest of it is still connected. So I'm just going to leave the hose connected, and I'm going to pull the whole thing out because my other end's not connected. For you, you can just tuck the whole thing up this way because your radiator is not going to be disconnected. And that will look like this. So you're going to have one bolt on the side here. You're going to have these two bolts, and there's a rubber piece that keeps the bolt with the housing. You're going to have that. And then you're going to have a metal gasket. And it's going to look like that. All right, so you're going to have a tensioner. Gonna be two 13s. Gonna go and take that off. For the AC compressor, you're gonna have a stud on the front of the engine, right down there. You're gonna take that stud off. You're gonna have a 13 down below going through the compressor, also in the front. Then on the actual at the front of the engine into the block, you're gonna have one bolt at the back like this. Take that out, and then we got to undo this stud, or you can slide the compressor up the stud and get it off. But either way, either the stud comes out or the compressor comes off the stud. Once you've disconnected your connectors and done all that, then your compressor drops, and now it's out of the way. So now we can get to the timing cover. So from here, everything is exposed. The only thing that we can do from here is right down there. There's an electrical harness that's clipped to the timing cover. We're going to go ahead and unclip that, and then we're going to lift this thing up and get we need to get this engine mount out. So all right, so you can see how much room we have now with the compressor dropped out of the way. So now we're going to go ahead and get this crank sensor disconnected, get that out of there. We're going to go ahead and get the harness unclipped from the timing cover. And we're going to get this balancer out of here. All right, first of all, your balancer bolt's going to be a 24 millimeter. And what I use to get the balancer off, I use this, it's a Chrysler balancer puller. But basically it just goes on like this. And you got these little adapters here that slide down this to kind of help push it underneath. And then from there, you have a hollow bolt. And to start with, I had to use the second longest rod. So the rod goes in the bolt like this, and it pushes off the inside of the crank like that. And then you'll get it most of the way out, and then you'll have to switch to the long rod. Put that one in, it'll zap it the rest of the way off. And now our balancer is out of here. So now we can go ahead and disconnect this electrical connector. Okay. We're going to disconnect, we're going to unbolt the clip here. We're going to take out as many lower timing cover bolts as we can. Also, there are 3 13s that go through the bottom of the oil pan up into the timing cover. So got to take those out. Okay. Then we're going to drop it down, support the engine on a jack stand, take the engine mount out, get the rest of the timing cover out. All right, you're going to have 3 18s here. You're going to have the 15 on each side here. You're going to have 2 13s that hold a bracket here. You're going to take this off, and now we need to take that big bracket off. And once we get done with that, I'll show you what bolts are going to come out of the timing cover, because not all the bolts come out. So like your water pump is held onto the timing cover in certain places. Bracket's going to look something like this. You're going to have 2 18s right there and 2 13s. Let me get this whole bracket off like that. And now we can see that we can get to this entire timing cover. And we're going to get ready to pop this off. So the best way to show you what's going on with this timing cover is to show you the new timing cover. So here's the new timing cover. All right, so we got a new timing cover. It comes with all the seals. There's a lot of seals involved with this, so we just did a new timing cover so we didn't have any issues. But as you can see, there's this wiring harness on the inside of the timing cover. This goes to an oil pump flow control valve, and this goes up inside the upper oil pan. So you can see all these bolts here. All right, so we got the timing cover disconnected. However, we can't get the timing cover out because of that wiring harness. So what you need to do, what normally you would do, is you put a jack stand, you support the engine, you pull the timing cover out because you got to take the upper engine mount out. However, we have to take off the upper oil pan. So to do that, we had to hang the engine. So you'll need some sort of device where you can hang the engine. You can see I've got it supported on each side here. There's some Matco transverse bar here. And in most cases, you would bring a bar across the front to support it here. But we've got engine mounts on the front, so we're not worried about that. Took out one of the injector rail bolts here and just found a longer bolt, went with a bracket there, lifted it up, and we've got it supported. So now I've got the timing cover just barely held with these 2 bolts here, these top 2 bolts. And now we got to lift this up and take off the lower oil pan and the upper oil pan before we can get this timing cover out. We got to take off this front exhaust pipe here. So you're going to have 2 nuts in the front. You're going to have an oxygen sensor connector. You're going to come through here, and we're going to have 2 bolts to hold the 2 exhaust pipes together. And then back here, we got 2 nuts. We're going to do this, and we don't have to touch this other pipe here, just this one here. And then we're going to go ahead and take out all these 10 millimeter bolts for this lower oil pan here. So on this one here, you can see that we have 3 of these brown clips here like that, right? So now that we've got the lower oil pan off, you can actually see that one of the clips is supposed to be right there. It's not connected. Another one of the clips is up inside there and it's not connected. And another one is up there and it's not connected. So we could actually pull this out without taking off this oil pan. I'm going to pull the oil pan off because we have leakage over here and I want to make sure that we're all sealed up. For this oil pan, you're going to have 115 up here in the front. You're going to have a 15 here. You're going to have a 15 here, and there's a little cover for the flywheel there, and it's going to look like this. So there's going to be 2 15s for that. So you're going to have a 15 here and a 15 up there. You're going to have 2 10s back here, right there and right there, long 10s. Going to look like that. And then the rest is going to be 13 millis all around the perimeter. We're going to go ahead. Oh, there's one more 10 right there. So there's 3 10s. We're going to knock all those off and get this oil pan off. You're also going to have 2 15s back here that go through the axle bearing bracket. Loosen up the top one and take the bottom 2 out. And then you'll be able to move this bracket enough to get the oil pan away. Undo all the bolts except for one on each end, on each side. And then this pan is siliconed on, so if you take a dead blow like this and you hit the pan right here, you can get it to pop. And so now my pan is loose. I just need to take out the 2 bolts and it's going to come out. All right, so the oil pan is off, and as you can see, it's silicone all around the perimeter. We got a couple little seals here, and there's one seal here that I'm going to replace. All the rest is silicone. You have a level sender that goes right there. And now you can see the harness, how it comes off and goes back. And now, so it's tucked into these little channels here. And there we go. You can see that that's all tearing away. You can see right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. So there's 3 little channels where the plastic goes into, and it's breaking away. And then we have one here, and then of course that broke as well. So now we have all this disconnected. Now we can disconnect this connector, and we can go ahead and get our timing cover out of here. One other thing you have to do to get this timing cover out is there's this metal pipe here that goes into the block of the rear head. It's connected to a rubber hose here. You have to unbolt the bolt there. You're going to have to pull the pipe out and rotate it so that way you can get the timing cover out. Now that we got everything off, now it's time to clean. Now we need to clean everything really, really good. We're also going to want to clean down the front of the block there, where all the oil is down the front there. We want to get all that cleaned up, get all that silicone off, so that way we can reinstall this timing cover, oil pan, valve covers, and make this thing look good. What I'm going to use a little razor blade scraper like this to get the majority of the silicone off. And then we're going to come over and we're going to get Scotch-Brite pads like this and use this with Brake Clean. And we're going to scrub the rest off of there. All right, so once you clean everything, you want to make sure that you clean right here, this edge, this top edge, because we're going to be siliconing that with the valve cover. So you're going to do that. You're going to clean this whole surface all the way. Now you can do this with the water pump on or with it off. It doesn't matter. I took it out as one assembly. So it's going to look like this, and you're going to need a bunch of seals. You're going to need those seals. You're going to need a crank seal. You're going to need to seal your connector. You're going to need your water outlet seals on each side, and right there in the center for your water pumps. You're going to need all those seals. So once you have all those seals in, now we're going to apply silicone to this whole cover, and then we're going to put the cover in, and we're going to get it torqued. So your silicone should look like that. all the way around. You're going to put it on these spots there where the bolts go through. Next up is you'll be able to see where the block and the heads meet. You want to put a dab of silicone on all the points where there's seams in the engine. So your timing cover is going to be 89 inch-pounds for all the little 10 millimeter bolts around the perimeter. Then for your engine mount bracket, you're going to have you have the big ones here. These aren't the right ones. Hang on. And then for your bracket here, for these top two bolts, those are going to be 132 inch-pounds. And then these big ones are going to be 44 foot-pounds. So once you get your whole timing cover torqued on, you're going to torque your whole timing cover. And then you want to put your solenoids and stuff like that in, but you're going to be putting your bracket in. And your water pump, all your water pump bolts are 132 inch-pounds as well. Then, once you get everything clean and you got your whole valve cover surface clean, your valve covers are going to be 132 inch-pounds as well, all around the perimeter, both of them. But don't forget to replace your spark plug tube seals and your solenoid seals. My solenoid seals were leaking on my front head. To get your timing cover on and your bracket here on, we can go ahead and put our engine mount in now, and that way we can remove the hanger. We don't have anything in the way, and now we can reassemble everything else. We're going to need this seal right here, and here's the part number right there. And we're going to go ahead and just press that into this spot right here. And now you want to make sure everything is clean. We're going to be putting silicone all around the perimeter of this oil pan. And then we're going to make sure that we have everything clean up there. So right here where the silicone came out, you're going to cut that with a razor blade. And then before we put the oil pan up, you're going to run a bead of silicone there, and back there. All right, before you do anything else, you want to make sure that you connect this connector before you put this oil pan on, obviously. So once we get this oil pan on, we're going to get the lower oil pan on, and the lower oil pan is 89 inch-pounds. This oil pan is 62 inch-pounds for these 3 bolts, plus 180 degrees. Then you're going to do all the 13s around the perimeter, and that's going to be 18 foot-pounds, and then 89 inch-pounds here. Before you put your valve covers on, make sure that you replace your spark plug tube seals that go in from the bottom. Lube them up before you put them in. Your cam seals go in through the top, not your cam seals, but your solenoid seals. Go ahead and put your valve cover on. And then what you want to do is you want to put a dab of silicone along the seam there, and then push your valve cover on, and your valve cover is going to get torqued to 132 inch-pounds. All right, so once you get your valve covers on, so now we've got the whole engine sealed up, all the silicone gaskets, everything sealed minus the intake. So what you want to do is, the next thing you want to do is you want to put your insulators on here, okay? So anyway, go ahead and get these on, set them in place, so that way you don't forget them, okay? Then what I recommend is that you start from the bottom, work your way up, because your harnesses all up here are being pulled down by your AC compressor, your alternator, and everything that's down that way. So you want to start down there and then work your way up. Actually, you can't put these on until you put your coils and stuff like that. But leave these sitting right there, because you'll forget to put them in if they're over there. All right, so now that we're here, now we've got the compressor, we've got everything hooked up over here, alternator, you want to put your belt on, go ahead and put your balancer on. You want to lube it up where it goes through your seal. Don't forget to connect your axle, and don't forget to put your bolts in through the bell housing into the oil pan.
Now, one thing about me is I am a clean guy. I like to be clean. I like my floor to be clean. I don't like walking around in coolant and oil. So I will get on the floor with a rag and wipe the floor down, so that way I'm not walking around in crap. And also, when you spray everything off with brake clean, it doesn't always come off. So you're going to need to use a rag, wipe it down, and just get it done. And that way we can move on. I want to know if I have any leaks when I'm done, so I make sure everything is clean. Next up, I got to get this balancer ready to go in. So what I like to do is I like to wipe off the snout of the balancer, and I like to use Sil Glide to lube it up. You want to lube it up because when it slides in, you don't want it to tear your crank seal. So this here, I got it clean, got the Sil Glide on there, and I go to put it in, and I realize a couple things. One, got to get the bolt ready to go. The previous bolt had silicone on it, so I got to get it cleaned off. Want to make sure it's clean and dry before I install it. The next thing you're going to need is something to knock the balancer on, or if you have a long balancer installer, you can use that. So I'm using a wire brush to brush off the balancer, and then I'm going to use a couple of dead blows to hit this on. Now it's quite a process because this balancer it has to go in quite a bit for the bolt to reach. So you can see I'm using one dead blow to hit another dead blow, and this goes on to be a little bit of a process before I get the balancer on enough where the bolt can run the balancer in. Because what I do is I hammer the balancer on, and once the bolt has enough threads, I will get a gun and I will gun the balancer on. So obviously I didn't get it in enough because the bolt doesn't even reach. So here we go. We got a couple of dead blows working in tandem to get this balancer pushed on. We should be pretty close. Now you want to make sure that your balancer bolt has enough threads where it's not going to pull out. So I had a couple threads, but it just wasn't quite enough. Now when I put balancers on, I like to use my 1/2-inch air impact because the 1/2-inch cordless impact, it has a lot of torque, and I don't want to over torque the balancer bolt. So I don't like to use my big 1/2-inch Milwaukee to put the balancers on. Technically, you should torque a balancer, but very rarely do I torque them. So once you get the balancer installed all the way, you're going to pull it out, and we're going to put a little bit of silicone on the edge of the balancer bolt. So sometimes you'll do this, you'll pull a balancer bolt out and there will be silicone all over. I generally don't put silicone on there, but on this one here, I don't want it to leak, so we're just going to go ahead and just run it in and make sure. I got a little saying. It's called better safe than sorry. I don't want to do this job 2 times. So we just make sure it's done correctly the first time. And we're going to gun this in and be all done.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to put the intake on. So we need to just wipe this down right here and get you the intake gaskets. Now here is the part number for a box that comes with all 6 intake gaskets and a throttle body gasket. So we're going to go ahead and get all this clean here, and we're going to wipe all that away. We're going to set it down, but don't forget this coolant hose that we disconnected. We have to connect that. So when you put your intake on, don't forget to connect your metal pipe here with the 210s. You got your 13s. This thing should just sit right down, no problem. You got your 10 there for the bracket. You got to connect your throttle body. Okay. Don't forget your evap purge solenoid here, and clip your line in there, and also your connector. You got to put your cover on. So your bolts for this are 18 foot-pounds. Now here are all the specs for everything on the car, just in case you missed it. The oil pan, the 310 millimeters are 62 inch pounds and 180 degrees. All the 13s are 18 foot-pounds. The water inlet, the metal pipe that goes there, they're 132 inch pounds. The water pump is 132 inch pounds. The timing cover, the M6 bolts are 89 inch pounds. The M8 bolts are 132 inch pounds. And the 44 foot-pounds for the M12s. The M12s are for the 2 bottom engine mount bolts. Engine mount bracket. This is for the top of the bracket. And then this is for the timing bolts. Now, remember one thing. All the timing cover bolts are 89 inch pounds. However, some of the timing cover bolts go through the water pump. So those bolts are going to be 132 inch pounds. Then you're going to have, there's your engine mount. All right. Your valve cover bolts are 132 inch-pounds and your intake is 18 foot-pounds. After watching this video, I hope you were successful in doing this job, or maybe you saw it and you were like, this is way too much work for me. But it's not that hard. It's just time consuming. So, you know, we have to take apart a whole bunch of stuff to get it off, and you want to reseal it properly. Use all the proper gaskets and seals and sealant. So, thanks for watching the video. Drop a comment down below and let me know if this is something you've tackled or if it's something that you're shying away from. See you guys next time.